A lot of people don't get their news from old school media. They're on YouTube. Their algorithm is nicely probably AI curated at this point.
Yeah, you have your
To
own
and then
filter bubble with
yeah, and if your interests are in AI, the funny thing is like your algorithm is being cured by AI to show you AI related videos.
yeah. My recommendation is if you are actually genuinely feeling like emotionally overwhelmed and anxious, switch it off. Switch it off and start doing instead of continuing to consume, because you can always consume. There's always the next video, the next opinion, a viral post that you need to follow.
If you get overwhelmed seeing all these different creators talking about this tool, that tool, and everyone, it's almost like you would think that they're working for the company. Like they're saying, this is the best. It's like they're getting like whatever, an affiliate code for every time somebody signs
Which in
up for
some
Claude.
cases might also be true, but
That, yeah, that might be true. It's not true for me. I'm not, even though it's funny, I've seen some comments on YouTube saying, oh, this guy is, what's it called? Like an industry plant. Like I'm an industry plant for OpenAI, like trying to get everybody to forget about what Sam Altman did last week. You know? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Say I'm Lior from Exploring ChatGPT. As I said, Daniel, you want to introduce yourself?
yeah, I'm Daniel, and I write Why Try AI here on Substack as well.
And me and Daniel and I are in an AI bubble, especially a lot of creators here on Substack. This is what we're interested in. This is what we have fun with. And so we watch other creators, we follow other creators, we watch what we do, what they do. And it can be a little overwhelming for us at times. I don't know. The whole world feels this way. Probably not. There's probably a lot of people that they're not thinking about AI on a daily basis at all, which is a great point that Daniel mentioned before we started this stream. But I think it's still an interesting topic to the both of us. So let's dive into it. Yeah, Daniel, anything on this to get started?
Yeah, no, that I think you've also captured what we just chatted prior to going live. I think it's also easy to believe that you are in this overload and information and overwhelm of tools when you are in that bubble, because by nature of what you and I do and many people here on Substack do is, well, we have to stay abreast of all the developments and news. So to us, it feels like there's just a fire hose of stuff all the time. But I'm convinced there are people out there who don't touch AI on a daily basis at all and who don't wonder what's happening. So they are not in this predicament that we are now trying to talk about.
Yeah, it's
But
very
many
true.
of your readers and now viewers as well, I'm sure they might relate more to us because they are interested in this topic. And when you are in that space, it's very hard to turn off the information because there is always new opinions, always new models, always new tools. There's always something every single day or every single hour actually launching. And I think we were trying to see if we can come to some kind of sense of how do you deal with it? How do you not get just constantly anxious about missing out, or how to avoid FOMO and how to move forward without overload?
Yeah. I think before we get into what we think might be the solutions, like I just had this idea pop in my head
Mm,
that I didn't think of in the preview room. At least I feel like for the younger generations, I don't know necessarily how like boomers, for example, I don't. Yeah, maybe actually for them too. But they're on TikTok and YouTube. But old media is dying out, and I feel like at least for me, it could be anecdotal. I think there's probably some truth to this. A lot of people don't get their news from old school media. They're on YouTube. Their algorithm is nicely probably AI curated at this point.
yeah, you have your own
And then
filter
like
bubble with
yeah, and if your interests are in AI, the funny thing is like your algorithm is being cured by AI to show you AI related videos,
yeah,
which probably
it's
like
an
most of
it's
my
an Ouroboros of
yeah,
AI
like my
related.
my my YouTube algo is Mythos did this and Claude
Yeah.
did that, and then like a random golf video. Like it's a funny algorithm, and then probably like somebody eating a hamburger, and I get hungry.
An AI generated video of someone eating a
Yeah,
hamburger for all.
yeah. The AI algo knows when I'm hungry, and then it shows me a video of me eating chicken nuggets. So I think actually like in regards to most of the world probably doesn't affect, but I think there is some truth to that. Like, if you're interested in algo knows, if you're on YouTube, you're seeing everybody's opinions. So, yeah, I think I have some probably interesting solutions to get over this. I'm sure
Yeah.
Daniel does as well. I will say, for me, I think the main point is to not focus in too much on what everybody else is doing, and everyone's talking about this tool or that tool. Just do it yourself, really, is the moral of the story for me. And I'll dive into that a little bit deeper as well. But I think just it's like Nike, just do it. That's what it is for me.
Uh, Oh, it's funny because one of my top notes for the chat was actually that it's a bit paradoxical, but like when there is so much stuff happening, your natural instinct is, oh, I got to be tuned in. I got to follow everybody and see. And my recommendation is if you are actually genuinely feeling like emotionally overwhelmed and anxious, switch it off and focus on take an inside out approach instead. And start doing instead of starting continuing to consume because you can always consume. There's always the next video, the next opinion, a viral post that you need to follow. And ironically enough, it doesn't get you closer to actually understanding what you can use AI for. And what does is finding something in your own life that you can apply it to. Make a decision. It might not be the most perfect decision, but make a decision, pick a tool, pick a task, pick a specific pain point, just start and see it's the best way to move forward because then you are focusing on something that matters to you rather than a million opinions that others are telling you to care about.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that we actually, both of us are just do it type of thing because we didn't talk about that before.
No,
But that's like the moral of the story for me as well. So I'll give you an example from me. I speak to Daniel obviously on a weekly basis. I speak to Chris from Toxec, TOXSEC. I speak to Sam Illingworth, Dr. Sam Illingworth, professor of physics. And everybody has their own opinions and things like that. And sometimes we try to stick to the facts usually, but it can get very opinionated and very ideological, especially lately. It feels like maybe it's dying down a little bit, but OpenAI did this government contract deal and Anthropic didn't. And this company lines up with my ideology and this one doesn't. So I'm going to cancel my subscription here. And then this person says you have to delete your subscription and this is how you transfer everything over to whatever tool. And it's all great. It's all good. Everybody's doing their thing here. And I think it's fun. But I think it also traps you in a box to say, this is what I do. Like I use this tool. This is how I use it. This is how people should be using it. And I don't think that's necessarily the truth of reality. Like uh, I've had some articles about this already where I say AI is an individual experience, and I think that also really sums it up nicely for me because one tool might be good for one person, might not be good for the next. It depends on your use case. And I had a friend who asked me, like, how do I start? Where do I start? And I was like, I thought about it for myself because the best way I could describe it is how I started. And I think if you actually have a use case, then you
exactly.
start from there. And that's how you do. And then you learn by doing. And for me, my initial use case was starting my Substack. And then it grew from there. So I think that's also maybe one of the harder parts is not getting into kind of the decision paralysis
Yeah.
because there's so many options. Just, I think making the right decisions is actually the hardest part.
Yeah, this really echoes what I think I've actually mentioned a few times on our chats, even when they weren't focused specifically on Overwhelm. It's start with your like yourself and the problem that you have, identify something that helps you get there and like go from there instead of an outside in perspective where you're trying to listen to all the noise and filter it because you'll never succeed that way. I think I can see already Heather wrote something that I fully agree with. So build something. It might not be perfect, but get your hands dirty trying to do something. And then you have, from now on, after you do that, you suddenly have an anchor to which to add new information. Because if you just read information in a vacuum, you have nothing to relate with. And if you've built something and maybe it failed, maybe it wasn't quite there, then going out and researching in a more meaningful, like more targeted way, how do you fix this? How do I move forward? Also gives you something to hang that in from some hook to hang that information onto so that it actually sticks and actually moves you forward instead of just something that gives you more anxiety and something to stress about. So that's usually the approach I try to make. I'm the same with many things. I try like it's actually can be compared a little bit to a game tutorial. Like it's always better to throw you in a game and give you like a specific task. Go and jump. Go press this button to shoot or whatever it is. Because now and then if you want to then stop and be like, hey, how do I unlock all these secret levels? Because now I know how to play the game. Now I'm reading that information not in a vacuum, but in something that hooks up. There's actually quite a bit of overlap between this. Give yourself an experience that you can relate to, and then build from there. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think like you said, like Heather here in the chat about taking a break from Substack, fully agree. And then also like being tool agnostic will set you free. That's perfectly stated. I think, and that's actually one of the main points that I had. And I mentioned this in other streams. Don't be a purist. Experiment. And I found this for myself too. I was somewhat of a purist for a long time. It's in my name, ChatGPT. And ChatGPT gets a lot of slack. But if you look at my actual workflow and how it's been built out, the reason that I'm using multiple tools now is because I've experimented and I found that some tools are better than others. Just hands down. And honestly, even though, yes, AI is an individual experience, I have found, and that some people agree with me, other creators agree with me, that, for example, I think the best example of maybe a tool that actually across the board, most people would agree is the best for image generation. And I know Daniel likes image generators. That's how you started,
That
right?
that is my that was my gateway drug to AI is
Yeah.
playing
Like
around with images.
I found that Nano Banana 2 is hands down just unbelievably the best for me. I've heard some other people agree as well. I think it also probably depends on your use case as well. But I could just to dive into that just very quickly. If you're creating thumbnails, if you're a creator on Substack or YouTube or whatever it might be, a lot of these image generators, and this actually is something that happens across the board with AI, a lot of different tools. You fix something and something else breaks.
Hmm.
And Nano Banana 2 is the one image generator that I found that if I create an image and I want to change a word or fix the spelling of a word or make somebody look more realistic or less realistic or whatever it might be, like it actually does it without breaking anything else, which I found that's personally for me. And I think this is another important point to make. Like finding what works for you sometimes will be about finding what tools break in certain situations and what don't. So,
This is exactly the point I was going to follow up on with you
yeah,
because because my first knee-jerk reaction when you started saying don't be a purist, try a bunch of tools. I think that can sometimes have a bit of conflict between what we're talking about here because again, if you're a beginner, you're like, but you just told me to focus on one thing and solve one thing, but now you're telling me to experiment with 13 tools. Shit,
yeah,
what do I do? And I would say when you're starting out, don't sit and analyze which is the best tool for this specific thing. Pick one, try it, and only if it fails, then you can move on. If you're in the beginning stages, if you are, versed into what you can expect, then you can start expanding your horizon, adding more tools. And speaking of edge cases and things that break in unexpected ways, if you asked me yesterday and mentioned it, I would agree with you 100%. I would say a Nano Banana 2 or Gemini Flash image, whatever is the official term, is on paper one of the best, maybe if not the best models, both for image creation and image editing. But yesterday, and this is a really good example, my wife was trying to do a very basic thing with Gemini through Nano Banana 2. She gave it like a text that was horizontal, like an image, and said, do this, but arrange them vertically. Like it was like literally 2026 written in a certain font. And she just do this, but not horizontally, but like vertically arranged on paper. And it couldn't do it. It either just came back with the same image or it added a 2 and a 6 at the bottom. So it would be 2026 and a 2 and a 6 here. It was like a cross. And I'm like, and then I told her, listen, sometimes it anchors itself to what's in the chat already because it created that image and then it uses that as the base. Try a new chat. And it kept failing. And then I said, you know what, let me try to go back to the good old ChatGPT and GPT image and just see if that, and it nailed it on first try. Same prompt, same exact example. It's back to tools, even the best tools have their weak points. So if you're constantly running into a wall, trying to solve it, instead of just hammering at the same tool that somebody told you is perfect, take a sideways approach and be like, hey, try this other thing that maybe is number 2 on the list or number 5 on the list, and it actually might solve that specific issue point.
yeah, yeah.
Because
It's a great point.
we're definitely there's no shortage of tools for any practical situation. For any given thing you want to do with AI, there is dozens, hundreds of tools and models.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because actually, now that you mention it, it is like counterintuitive to actually what we're talking about here.
Yeah,
When I
we're
say,
now
like, when I
opening up
say,
another can of worms because
don't
it's two different
experiment,
audiences. It's two different
don't do it.
audiences here. If you are overwhelmed, if this kind of talk telling you that there are 10 million tools is stressing you out, tell me and Leo to shut up, walk away,
Yeah,
and focus on what you actually want to solve. And honestly, not every single thing in your life needs AI. So maybe you don't need AI for everything, but identify a couple of areas. Try to write down a few things. Well, this is repetitive. This is annoying. This is something I don't want to spend my time on. Can AI help here? Question mark. and then try it. Give it a shot. Pick a tool instead of sitting and analyzing 10 of them and see what it does if you're feeling overwhelmed. If you're not, if you're like me who's nerding out and who likes to try 10 million things and just be a bit all over the place, then by all means, go ahead. Then we're not talking to you here right now.
Yeah. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So I think what I mentioned about not being a purist and experiment, that should probably come later down the line. But even for us too, like I think that actually is really counterintuitive to what we're talking about. So it does make sense. But when I think about like when I started with one tool. It was the only tool available, really. ChatGPT was the only thing in early 2023. It was the only thing,
Right.
as far as I'm aware. I could be wrong, but I
I
think,
mean, you had Bing coming up, which was also based on OpenAI's models. So yeah, same
yeah,
thing.
yeah. But yeah, so I think especially if you're a beginner, yeah, don't get caught up in the hype too much. Just definitely try one thing. But I think also like that's really where I think what it boils down to is back to that conversation I had with my friend. He's like, how do I start? What do I do? And I really thought about it for a second. I'm like, actually, that's a really hard question to answer because if you don't have a specific use case, then where do you actually start? Unless you're just having fun with it for whatever, that's great too. But when I think about it from my personal experience, if I didn't have a use case starting out, I don't know where I would have started either. I probably would still be using it like Google. So it's definitely a tough question to even think about.
Hmm.
But yeah, I will say if you get overwhelmed seeing all these different creators talking about this tool that and everyone it's almost like you would think that they're working for the company. Like they're saying, this is the best. It's like they're getting like whatever, an affiliate code for every time somebody signs
Which
up
in
for
some
Claude.
cases might also be true. But
That yeah, that might be true. It's not true for me. I'm not even though it's funny, I've seen some comments on YouTube saying, oh, this guy is what's it called? Uh like an industry plant. Like I'm an industry plant for OpenAI, like trying to
yeah,
get everybody to forget about what Sam Altman did last week.
yeah. Or you have those Reddit posts that are immediately being called out because they're presented as a neutral question. Which tool should I use compared to this X tool? And people are like, you're just shilling for that X tool right now because I can see the way you
Yeah,
phrased it.
yeah,
And yeah, but I think it goes back to, I would say the first question shouldn't even be, what can I use AI for? Honestly, try to ask yourself, do I feel I need it? I know that anybody who is a power user and who is scaling and building huge empires with AI will tell you, yes, you need it. Not everyone's at that stage, and not everyone necessarily feels that it's necessary. So ask yourself, do I feel that there is a area of my life, whether personal or work related, where AI might help? Try to make that list of short list. Here are the things that I would love ideally AI to do for me because that's not where that brings me joy, and I would like to outsource it. And then go through that short list and see, is there a tool that can do this? And can I test it with a minimal, what is the minimal viable product or a minimal viable prompt that I can use here to just get AI to help me?
yeah,
And then you can expand your horizon over time and try new tools because then you have a benchmark to compare against.
right. Yeah. Another personal example of speaking to people, and this isn't even on the internet. It's like speaking to people at over dinner or whatever it might be. I know some people that work in big tech that you would think like this conversation applies to them directly. They have to be overwhelmed. But the crazy thing is no. Like you would think that people that are working at, let's say, I'll just throw you like an actual real example of somebody that I spoke to that works at Adobe. And I spoke to him probably a couple weeks ago. And he's like, yeah, we just got Claude.
Hmm.
I'm like, you just got Claude? So what are you doing with these? I don't even know. Nothing yet. Oh, it's crazy to think like the
Yeah.
people that are a lot of people that are actually working in big tech actually are like just starting. And
But
it's
I also
crazy to
think
think about.
a lot of people who work on real kind of project and applications, they by default do what you and I are advising people to do here because you put your blinders on and you say, I'm focused on this is my deliverable, this is my project. And there is one tool that helps me with that. And there are 15,000 other tools that don't. Go back to the roots, go back to the basics of what am I trying to solve with this. Claude Code is great for me. And I know I'm the one who's been talking about it quite a bit. Some people take it even 10 times further than I have. And for some people, it might be overwhelming and too much because all they need is a chatbot that can answer certain questions and build them some prototype for something. And they don't need to build their whole life around a tool. So I think, yeah, I think that's really the key thing is to take an inside out perspective of what do I need in my life rather than what the world is telling me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also there's probably a big difference between people that are using it. If you're an entrepreneur and you're making your own business, it might be more overwhelming to you compared to somebody who's working in big tech where they only have that one choice because that's what their
That's the
company
platform
is.
they have.
That's the company that they're subscribing to Claude, and
Yeah.
that's what they're going to use. Whereas for us, it's like options are limitless, and for them, it's just this is what I'm focused on. This is what I'm building. This is the tool that I was given by my company, and this is what I'm doing. So let's see. Arturo said, "Are there certain types of people who benefit more?" For me, it's like striking gold, but others not so much. I don't know. It's an interesting question. What do you think, Daniel?
No, I mean, I think this is back to what I was trying to say. It probably depends purely on your experience. I don't know what Arturo is referring to when he says it's like striking gold, if it's a specific tool or just AI in general. And the answer will be no matter which tool it is we're talking about. And for some people, something will be extremely relevant because that's the life stage that they're in, and that's the project that they can help them with. And for some people, it's just a nice to have thing that they might want to skip for now. I'm curious actually that Tina, you're writing that Copilot is the only thing the job will allow. I think I've seen that. But I'm more curious that you're saying it's a different experience from ChatGPT because Copilot, until at least recently, everything Microsoft did was based on the OpenAI models. So basically, they had the same models under the hood that ChatGPT. Now they're starting to have their own models and plug in probably those into Copilot. But I would actually be curious to know, like, when people say Copilot and ChatGPT are drastically different, what is the experience? Is it the harness or something else?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. I think also like in terms of this kind of goes back to like Copilot. I've spoken to a lot of people about it, and it's almost like the world that we're living in. Everybody's so ideological; they get stuck in these groups, and you can't like critically think on your own and separate from that group and realize maybe not everything ideologically here I should align with just because I'll get kicked out of this group if I have one different opinion. And I think that's also a big part of the overwhelm, which is, which I mentioned earlier in this stream. It's like people will actually delete their subscription based on what a CEO is doing,
mm,
based on the deals that they're making. And I think that goes into a lot of the hype and that overwhelming factor where it's, hey, I mean, do you still like the tool? Is it still doing what you want it to do?
mm.
If so, and you're leaving that tool for ideological reasons, maybe you need to take a deeper look at yourself and say, um, maybe I should be a little bit more of a critical thinker
Yeah.
and realize, okay,
I understand. It's if you feel passionate about certain things, I do understand why people like you can boycott things that are nominally great for you. You might be you might love Pepsi and it might be the best drink you've ever had, but if we find out that Pepsi tomorrow is, I don't know, advocating for nuclear war or whatever it is that you like, you might be like, okay, maybe I'll stop drinking Pepsi, even though I like it. And yes, pragmatic part of me still says I like the product. So I understand that some people ended up in that niche. And there was that pretty vocal movement right away from ChatGPT. But yeah, it really depends on how bothered you are by certain ethic. I think if we take a bigger step back, a lot of AI companies and the models that have been built can naturally be criticized for a lot of stuff. For the initial way that they've been designed by scraping data with in dubious ways and the way they're trained. And you can be a purist and just say, I'm never going to touch any of this because it came about in an unethical way or gray area legal way. And then it comes down to, again, individually, where are you on that spectrum? Right? Listen, as long as it's helping me do stuff pragmatic, I can turn a blind eye. Maybe you're in between, or maybe you're like, no, I will not touch this because I don't like what it stands for. It's a hard one for me to recommend or not recommend to someone because I have my own opinion, but I can also respect that. We will not agree on this. There are people who are all over that spectrum.
yeah, I think at least be consistent
Sure.
because it's like now, I think that obviously there's a lot of hype around AI in general because it's like, this is it, right? This is internet times 100.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But at least be consistent. If you have a problem with a certain AI company or CEO ideologically, or let's say like, for example, like, let's say privacy, right? Um, do you really think that if you have an iPhone that you're as private as you think that you really are, for example, or do you think that Apple or Google are doing certain things that you're not ideologically aligned with? Probably not. And probably for this reason that, again, it gets back, I think, into media and where you're actually getting your news and your information from. Like everyone's talking about AI. No one's talking about where the iPhones are being made and how it, for example, like it costs them $10 to make it and they're selling it to you for $1,500. as an example. So
Yeah.
at least be consistent if you're going to tie down to your ideologies. But I think, so let's see in the chat here. Heather said, not to mention the fact that you
Mm.
really don't know what the other CEOs of these big tech companies are actually doing behind closed doors. You're just getting the press machine version. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, that's
Nobody
back
really
to my
knows.
point that if you really want to take a hard look at the whole AI industries, you can probably find corpses or skeletons almost everywhere, figuratively speaking. But I can see that Tina is saying that you were trying to compare ChatGPT and Copilot on a specific request. One thing I would like to mention there is that ChatGPT in itself, it's not a specific model. In ChatGPT, you have lots of dropdowns for models. Same with Copilot. So it could be a matter of not comparing apples to apples because maybe you use the thinking model in ChatGPT, like GPT-4 extended thinking, or maybe the old O3. And Copilot, you had the base version, and maybe they have a thinking mode as well. So I would try to also make sure that you are comparing two reasoning models to each other and with the same access to tools, because sometimes the results are not down to the tool itself, but the specific settings and the specific models you're using within
Yeah. Yeah. Great point.
it.
I think actually to tie this all together, I think in general, if you want to be less overwhelmed, less anxious about AI in general, like maybe just stop watching the news about it. Just put the phone down, put the
I think
computer
that was
down.
my very first point. Just do this.
Yeah, just go take a walk and go take a walk, go hiking or something, and just get off the internet for a little bit
Hack
because it's
graphs,
definitely. Are we
everything.
even living in reality at this point? I don't know. I think people are so like stuck to their phones. It's like this all day. I don't think
I
it's
don't know what
healthy,
you're
to be
talking
honest.
about. Wait.
Yeah, I don't think it's healthy. So again, to tie it all back, if you're just starting out, it can be stressful, it could be overwhelming. Just start, just do. Don't listen to what I said about experimenting. Don't do that. Just do
Don't
one
listen
thing.
to any of us in general.
Nothing.
Close
Maybe like
down Substack Live. Go listen
yeah,
about AI. Yeah,
just
start using it if that's what you want to do. Just for any practical reasons, instead of listening about it or watching us talk about it or reading a million hot takes on Twitter or
yeah.
uh,
But I think I will say this is what I think is special about these conversations. If you are in a blurry mind state because of everything that you're seeing about AI, a lot of the times it's because you have one person talking about, reacting to what this CEO is doing, what this company is doing. And I think that's the special thing about these conversations. We're just bringing like the human side to it and
hmm,
making people realize, hey, let's take a step back. Let's think a little bit outside the box here and not just be like this. I'd rather be like this. Just don't look. Don't do this.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, yeah. Anything else on this point, Daniel?
Yeah, there's plenty, but I think the practical terms we already mentioned. Yeah. Find something you want to solve if you want to. Ask if AI is the solution in general. Pick one tool, whatever it is, there are many, but just pick one, use it, and learn from there. And don't feel obligated to follow and jump aboard every single bandwagon because a new tool and a new model will be that tomorrow, and that one will be insane and it will be killing all the other models and it will be the best thing ever until the next one comes out the day after. So
Yeah.
don't
That's one
don't,
of the
don't
craziest.
chase that rabbit.
I think that's one of the craziest things about this. It's every week there's an update. Every week. I think
I think
especially
it's more frequently now, right? It's literally every hour. I think you can tune in and hear the
yeah.
next.
I think especially like specifically from Anthropic, Claude. So
I've
it's
been shipping like
nonstop.
crazy just the past couple of months.
It's nonstop. And you gotta think also it's overwhelming, right? But you think about it, it's like these companies have their own motives as well, right? They're gonna IPO soon. They want to make a bunch of money. Great, good. But I just realize there's some maybe hidden incentives behind the scenes there. Des says, can
Yeah.
anyone really get ahead of this?
Yeah. I think it also is like, what does I get ahead of look like? Is if your goal is to know every single tool that launches and know everything about and how they compare? No, nobody, no human can ever get ahead of that. But if it's, hey, how does this help me do something meaningful in my daily life or frees me from something mundane in my daily life? That I absolutely think you can. I think you can find your niche, if you want to be fancy, you can call it tool stack or just like a couple of things you do with AI that actually helps you move forward in your life. So in that sense, yes, you can be ahead within your bubble of one person rather than trying to be ahead of everything that ever happens, which is just not possible physically.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
enough
You'll
hours
be
or seconds in the day.
sorry. you'll be ahead for the day and then you'll fall behind within 24 hours.
Yeah, just better give up.
Basically, it's funny. I think I just one funny example, like, I remember everybody used to talk about prompt engineering, and now it's, like, irrelevant. You don't need it. If you want better prompts, you can ask actually AI to give you better prompts for whatever you're doing. Just to tie it
Yeah.
back into what we spoke about earlier, like, in terms of, like, Navana too, like, I don't prompt it for the images, I get the prompt somewhere else. I get the prompt from ChatGPT. It gives me a much better prompt
You
than I
can
could.
ask Gemini itself. You can be like, hey,
And
I'm
ask
trying to
Gemini
make a
itself.
picture and it should be this. Do you know what you're building? It's a reasoning model. You can be like, hey, I don't know what it's called, but I want this and there should be this at the top. How is it called? Make it. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah,
You can actually be pretty basic right now.
yeah. I will say, I think one of the main benefits to actually focusing in, especially when you're starting, is you'll realize that if you're using a specific tool and you have fun with it and it's working for you, it'll work better and better as you use it, as you gain more experience with it. For example, like in this example I gave about getting my prompts from ChatGPT for Naban too, it's like it's built into that chat where it's like it knows the model that's already worked, right? Like these are the images that I like that actually worked on the internet, and now I have that same model for those prompts. And it's a really interesting looking prompt, actually. It's very specific. You would never think of this. I don't care how good of a prompt engineer you are. That's irrelevant. Like it's a whole long list of lighting and background, and then there's like a negative prompt section which tells it what not to do. Which
Yeah.
so yeah, that's about
I
it.
think it's a good analogy also Heather has made here. It's like learning a bunch of different AI tools and start trying to learn a million languages at the same time. Yes, you might want to try them all, but maybe start with one, right? I think the advantage of also getting more deeply familiar with one tool is that when it runs into an issue, when it runs into some limitation, and you try something else, you have a very deep and intimate point of comparison of, oh, this feels different because now you're able to say it because you've had so much experience with tool A. So when you're starting with tool B, you really have a good gut feeling for where it stands. Instead of reading is A or B good for you and reading that article and all the 10 points, comparing them, you're in a much better place if you have already used one of them and maybe got very deeply familiar with it, as you said with ChatGPT in your case.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so that's another good reason to start somewhere with a decision, an A problem, and a pain point.
yeah. Absolutely. I think to sum it up before we wrap up, put the phones down, close the screens, relax, take a deep breath, go meditate. Don't get caught up in the hype. You know, I think that's where the overwhelmingness, if that's even a word.
Did you know
Like,
AI can help you meditate? No, I'm sorry.
yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. Yeah. How do I meditate?
ChatGPT helped me meditate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we could wrap it up there unless there's anything
I
else
think
you want
so.
to add,
I think
Daniel.
so. No, I think we've gone in circles around it now, but I hope people also feel the same way that there is just too much out there to try to catch it all. So don't even try. Don't set that as a goal for yourself because that's a way towards madness.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap it up, don't try. From the guy who runs the newsletter, Why Try AI? Don't
Don't try anything. Uh,
That's
uh,
hilarious. All right. Anyways, enjoy the rest of your day, guys, wherever you are in the world.
Bye, everyone.
I'm going to link this really quick, as I usually do. Daniel, and I like to say me and Daniel, but we do these streams weekly, Wednesdays, 7:45 a.m. EST. That's the YouTube channel in the chat. If you can subscribe over there, really appreciate it. We post the streams there. I will mention as well, as I usually do. Daniel also has a YouTube channel. I think at some point maybe he will start. No
It's
pressure.
more, like I said, it's more a repository for some stuff rather than an active
No
YouTube
pressure.
channel. But
Oh, do you want to mention also, you mentioned to me before the stream that you're starting to do solo lives to do,
yeah, I'm trying to experiment with. I'm really enjoying the ones you and I are doing, and I remember just enjoying trying new things in AI, which is actually the opposite of what we've talked about here, because I actually do go out and nerd out and try different tools just for fun. But please don't do that if you feel overwhelmed, because that's. But I personally like just trying what's out there without any pressure on having to solve something. I have one tomorrow around the same time, I think around 2:30 my time, which is actually now, where I'm going to try to explore a couple of tools.
awesome. But yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Daniel, for joining me as usual.
And thanks,
And
Heather. I
yeah,
can see for all them, and Des for all the comments, and for everyone
yeah,
who tuned in, and our two
thank you.
and rest and Tina. Take care
Have a
all.
good rest of your day. Bye now.
Right. Bye bye.